Jamie here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. September 25th, about 3:13 on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Talk really quick about the market, some of the names I'm looking at. Go from there, but take a look at the SPY, chopping between that range. 571, almost hit 572 in the morning, all the way down, just tapped 568 for a minute, and then been chopping around ever since. Um, I keep saying it, considering where the market has been since the start of August, to see it chop around in this tight range, I think that bodes well for more upside. If there was an opportunity for shorts to take advantage, or sellers, or folks who, profit takers, whatever you want to call it, to take advantage, this would be it, and they haven't yet. So to me, it just means there's enough buyers in there, churn through some of the selling, and then next leg to the upside. That's what it looks like to me. I know it stinks right now. The small caps are down 1%, so it feels like a serious down day. But S&P is down a 0.25%. That's really not much in the whole grand scheme of things. But if we get follow through tomorrow, we'll see what happens with Fed Chair Powell's comments. If he comes out with some surprises, hopefully not. And then PCE data on Friday. And then earnings season kicks off in 2 weeks. I believe it's October 11th is the start with the banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citi, and then the week after you start getting Netflix, and that's when the fun begins again. We'll take a look at the small caps. It'll be down for the third session out of the past four. Kind of disappointing, pending any crazy reversal here into the close. Want to see those start to get going. And you look, the biotechs are down over 1%. IBB is down nearly 2% today. All right, so that's that. So let's go to individual names. First, take a look at Visa. So it opened at about 270. Did it 274? Yeah, it opened at 274 and then melted right after the open. Finally broke through 270 all the way down to 268. Broke through the 50 and the 200-day moving average. Excuse me. I didn't want to be in a spot, and I put on the watch list, not the watch list, and FinTwit. So I locked more of the puts in for nearly 600%, and then once it broke under 270, and then it looked like it found support around 268, I figured once it started, if it got a bid back over 270, the premiums will start to come out of the puts. So I didn't want to be in a spot where I lose serious profits on it. So I locked the last of them in for a little over 600%. I'm not sure if I'm going to revisit. I mean, do I think it could get down into the under 260? Possibly, but it's probably gonna be stubborn, and it's probably gonna waste a lot of time and effort and energy to like watch it, right? And I don't want to have to see some kind of upgrade come out, or someone say buy the dip or whatever. So I'll revisit if the market finds selling. If we get some kind of pullback in the overall market, maybe I'll look for MasterCard instead. But great trade. Happy to and make up some of the puts that I had, spec puts I had last week, made up for that, and then some. So name I'll revisit, but certainly played out nicely. All right, so that's Visa. SE, I think it'll be up 7 days in a row, pending any crazy. Well, it's only up $1.91 here, but it's at levels it hasn't traded since I think it was May of 2022 or February. I have to go look what the data was, but the last time it traded over 94 was a long time ago. I think it's 2.5 years ago. Great sign here. It's holding its gains despite it's up 7 days in a row. So I locked some more of my calls in. I'm just going to wait to add some later strikes to that move over 100, just because at some point it's going to have consolidation, and if I wait, I think I can get the later data strikes at a less expensive price. So that's kind of the thought process behind locking some more calls in today. Just hold the last that I have, and then possibly look for some more names to play for that move over $100. That's SE. So then Corbus. So CRBP. I talked about it the last couple days in the chat room on the watch list on my rants. Let's see if I can post a chart. I don't know why it's not letting me do this. There it goes. I don't know if my internet's slow today or something. Something's going on. Anyway, so I posted this chart, and you could look. So back at and I've said this on my rants, right? But back in January, they had some positive antibody tumor data. So they have 3 drugs in their pipeline. This is their CRB 701, which is more for tumors. And there's been acquisition stuff in that space for substantial valuations. But positive phase 1 data back in January, the stock rocketed 300%, and then just melted higher all the way until pretty much September, right? And some will say, well, it's because of their CB1 drug. So they have a weight loss drug that's still in preclinical study. It's not even ready to go into phase 1. I think it's going to start in the first quarter of 2025. So I don't see how you can look at that chart and say, well, the CB1 drug was valued into the stock. Maybe at $9 or $8, wherever it was pre data for their 701 study. But Uh, for it to drop 50 over 50, it dropped 60% on just because NVO had CB1 data that was like less than ideal. It wasn't even horrible, just less than ideal, and they have to go into phase 2b study. It just doesn't, it's like mind-boggling to me. So you also have a 10% beneficial owner. I guess over 10% is technically an insider, but they have over a 10% stake. They actually added shares on the 24th, I believe, or yesterday, all the way up to into the 20s. I think they have, uh, I got to look at the exact dollar amount because I just, it's been a little nuts today looking at some of the other stuff. But you also have a beneficial owner. So, they have three drugs in the pipeline. And then the company on their last earnings announced they have $147 million in cash. And I think at this moment right now, it's probably 200. I don't know if I can pull this up because I didn't have it up yet. I think it's a $280 million. It's probably more now because of the rally today. Come on. $251 million market cap, $147 million in cash. So they have $147 million in cash on hand. Their operations looks like they burn through 10 million a quarter. So they have a runway all the way to, it says, till 2027. They did some dilution already this year. So I think that's all out of the way. So it's kind of like all the overhang or possible of dilutions out of the way. And then it's not like they came out with their data on their CB1. It's not even in study yet. So it's just, I just think there's an opportunity. It has a 10% short interest. Take a look at the option market today. I looked before, it was 4,000 contracts traded. 4,094 calls have been traded today, 203 puts. So that's not saying that all of them have been bought, but just pretty remarkable option volume on the call side. I was happy that it was over 20, spiked all the way to 22.17. I was actually looking for some 30 strikes. I'll probably just wait. It's a name I still have to do more due diligence on. There's some folks I respect on Twitter saying they don't like the name. I think they're more not liking the name because of the CB1 asset, which hasn't had their study yet. And number one, and number two, the reason the stock was trading at 60, $70 wasn't because of the CB1, it was because of their 701 antibody tumor drug for cancer. So anyway, rants for other days. I really like this name. I could see it, especially picking up some steam, trading into the mid 20s, maybe even higher. Maybe it gets a short squeeze over $30. Wouldn't rule that out either. But if it starts to have continuation, you start looking at the chart. I didn't want to catch a falling knife. Today looks like the day the bottom's kind of in and it's ready to head higher. All right, rants for other days. So that's CRBP. Baidu. So I finally added some strikes on Baidu. It was reversing the morning loss. I put on the watch list that if it starts to reverse into the green, I'd get some calls. I did. And then at 1 o'clock, there was a spike. I don't know if it was Meta's having their conference today. I don't know if it's because of if there was any news out of Meta, but all the way up to 95.48. I almost had my calls out for a double. Then it came all the way back down. I'll just hold. I got strikes for next week. If there's continuation in Asia markets overnight and Baidu gaps tomorrow, I might look for some more strikes too, because I start to think 105 is possible in the coming weeks on Baidu. But at the same time, why I was a little wary of adding calls yesterday afternoon on strength is because it just seems like overnight it's less of what Baidu does and more of what the Asia markets do, how Baidu performs. So it's kind of frustrating if China markets pull back overnight. Baidu is probably going to gap lower for no other reason than just because that's what the China market is doing. So it's a little frustrating. All right, just quick other names. And TERNs is down again for the 5th day in a row. I'm starting to bounce, hopefully down to 921. Not much to talk about. Once it breaks 1070, I'll add some more strikes. VKTX looked like it was starting to go. You have, and it was Oppenheimer reiterated their outperform rating. Is it $138 price target? Now that sounds like a good buyout price if there is some M&A at some point. So I'll just continue to hold my strikes there in VKTX. And the plan is just, once the Octobers expire, I'll go into November's until obviously, and if it breaks 75, I'll look for more strikes there. I'm trying to think of some other things. Meta has their conference about they're coming out with updated VR goggles, their glasses. Are they coming out with a phone? God, you do this long enough, and Pinto was mentioning I remember back in the day, there was a lot of folks who were negative Amazon still, right? And I talk about this, that their delivery business was eating into their profits. So because of that, they weren't profitable. They were losing money hand over fist. People thought at some point this is the path of bankruptcy and they're just going to be a snowball. And it turned out, obviously, that wasn't the case. And Anyway, rants for other days, but they had their Amazon Fire Phone. I think I wrote a piece on the site. I'll have to find it, but they came out with it and that was great. And then they nixed it, right? It didn't pan out, and everybody thought that was it, right? Amazon doesn't have products that fail, right? They had their Kindle. Oh my gosh. Um, so who knows? It seems like everybody who gets into that space, it's very hard to get a phone in. But I mean, Google's done it. So anyway, all right, rants for other days. We have about 36 minutes. I keep looking at Biogen, and Biogen just it doesn't look like it wants to bottom yet. So it's down here 190, 188. I mean, it hit 189.80. It's down here 190. Multi-year lows. I might look for some strikes into its earnings. I think they report at the end of they haven't announced the date, but typically it's at the end of October. Might look for some strikes into November on Biogen. That's it, folks. Let's have a great afternoon. I'll be back on audio tomorrow. Rock and roll.